Orleans Saints are still looking for their first victory in 1980. And when Archie Manning does the looking, it's usually for his tight end, Henry Child. But a new dimension has been added. Jimmy Rogers, the speedster out of Oklahoma, who rushed for over 100 yards last week. Vince Ferragamo gobbles them up in a hurry. Case in point, this 74-yard touchdown reception by Drew Hill and a touchdown against the Atlanta Falcons. And finally, in the waning moments in their defeat against Atlanta, a 55-yard field goal by Frank Corral came up short. From Anaheim Stadium in Anaheim, California, CBS presents the New Orleans Saints versus the Los Angeles Rams. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully along with George Allen. And, George, a question. How do you prepare your team against a bad team? That's the Ram problem.
Well, simply, Vin, I would never show the opposition at their worst. I would always show them at their best, and if necessary, make training reels to show them at their best.
Well, we asked Ray Malavasi that. What about using films to look at a team that's 0-8? And this was Ray's answer to that.
Well, no, we picked the films that we think are going to help us the most. And in all those films, they were very competitive. In the last 3 ball games at halftime, they were leading. And I think our team realized that. They turned the football over and made mistakes in the second half and ended up losing the ball games. But competitively, they were in there with every team that they had played against. So we look forward to a tough game, and I just hope they keep turning the football over and we get some of them.
Ray Malavasi hopes they will turn the football over. As the coach of the New Orleans Saints, what would you try to do to keep it simple?
Be positive all week. Tell them what a great opportunity they have to win this football game. They can beat the Rams if they play over their heads and not make mistakes.
Well, we'll find out about it right now. Let's go down on the field. And down on the field with referee Jim Tunney looking on, all of the captains, Bryant and Saul, along with Harris and Brooks and Jack Youngblood. And Archie Manning is out there along with Ray Brown, Zanders, Federspiel, and Malty. So in a moment, the toss of the coin. That's Jim Tunney, the referee.
New Orleans is what?
New Orleans has won the toss.
And will receive. Turn around, please. New Orleans has won the toss. Steve, good luck.
So there's Dick Nolan, the much beleaguered coach of the New Orleans Saints. Nolan, 48 years old, looking for a present today as the Saints come in here 0-8. For New Orleans, we should point out they've never led after the first quarter. However, they have had a couple of close shots of winning. They even led Miami down to the very last play of the game, and there was an offensive interference penalty called that cost them the game. For the Rams, Vince Ferragamo trying to shake loose the ashes of the defeat in Atlanta last week, and it will be interesting to see how Ferragamo bounces back after a somewhat rocky performance against the Atlanta Falcons. Meanwhile, Pat Hayden, who made his visit to the bench last week and stood in the wings and watched Ferragamo falter, once again, Hayden is on the sidelines and ready to come in should Ferragamo have a rocky day. On the sideline, Wendell Tyler. He's been out, of course, with the bad hip. The Rams tell us that when they get their hands on the football, Tyler will not only play today, he is going to start in place of Elvis Peacock. But Frank Corral will first have to get this thing in gear, and he'll be kicking to Rick Malty, and Malty leads the NFC in kickoff returns. He's been averaging better than 25 yards a return. So M-A-U-T-I, Rick Malty out of Penn State. He's the deep man, and he has to come up and let it be handled and kicked on the 12-yard line by Tony Galbraith, and the Rams have it. Galbraith kicked the ball, and George Andrews, number 52, falling on it. Watch this. Here is Tony Galbraith. And Galbraith will not only butcher the catch, he'll then kick it. And he kicked it right to George Andrews, who's down at the bottom of the pile, number 52. And how do you like that for a team that's 0-8, George?
Well, he never caught the ball in his hands. The ball hit his stomach, his chest, and bounced off.
So the big recovery by George Andrews on the muff by Tony Galbraith. And now here come the Rams. 1st and 10 on the 18-yard line. Second man, Wendell Tyler, and he's across the 15. So for Wendell Tyler, he returns to the formation. I guess there was some soul searching as to just when and where to use him.
Yes, I had a general rule then that after a player was coming off the injured list, to give him a week before we put him in. Tyler had that week last week against the Falcons. Be interesting to see what he does today. Usually when they first come back, they make a mistake. They fumble, drop a pass.
Second and 6 on the 14-yard line for Ferragamo. And Ferragamo on a second and 6 over the middle to Cullen Bryant, and he dropped it. Well, no reception. Picked up by Ken Bordelon, but no reception. To be Vince Ferragamo.
Quite a trade, and Bordelon's doing a good job for the Saints also.
So it is a 3rd and 6 on the 14 for Ferragamo. Billy Waddy is in motion to the right. And Ferragamo releasing to Cullen Bryant, and he's dragged out of bounds by Bordelon. And he got to the 10-yard line.
Well, the Saints went with a safety blitz here. If we can see it, here it is. The Rams picked it up, forced Ferragamo to go to the back. He did not pick up the first down. Pretty good coverage. Good tackle by Bordelon. Now, this is a big series because they have, to date, prevented the Rams from scoring. If you give them a touchdown here, Ben, after that, it's devastating.
No touchdown. It's Frank Corral going for the field goal. The hold will be at the 17-yard line by Nolan Cromwell. So it's a 27-yard field goal attempt that's up. And there's the easiest 3 points this side of Christmas, thanks to the opening muff of the kickoff by Tony Galbraith. So before the chairs are warm here in Anaheim, Corral now is 9 out of 13. And in the early going, only 57 seconds have elapsed. 3-0, Los Angeles.
Take it easy. You know, I was known for working long and hard during training camp. Why, even after my teammates were asleep, I'd still be out practicing my moves, and that's still important. So I drink light beer from Miller. Light tastes great. It's got 1/3 less calories than a regular beer, and the best thing is it's less filling. Because listen, I still train the same way as the old days. Practice, practice, practice.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
We call this the Cinder Block Mountain, a tough climb for any 4x4 pickup. And you know that 4x4 gas mileage is an uphill battle. But this is a 1981 Ford. It combines toughness with the best gas mileage ratings of all 6-cylinder 4x4 pickups. And it's the only American-built pickup with independent front suspension to step over bumps independently. Yes, Ford conquers the mountain with the best gas mileage. And it's built Ford Tough.
Well,
Final score.
This is Tony Galbraith, who muffed the opening kickoff. He's not normally there. Earlier in the year, it was Mouty, who is the deep man, along with Rogers and Wilson. But Rogers is now starting as a running back, so Galbraith was in there and dropped the kickoff. Larry Collins just joined the team, and he backs off to see that go out of bounds. Collins, number 43,
Out of bounds.
was originally with
Kick,
Cleveland.
5 yards.
So they're going to have to re-kick it. So it gives you an idea of what's happened in New Orleans. On the left, you have Galbraith, who has not been back there. On the right, you have Collins, who has just joined the team. And then you do have the NFC leader, Rick Mauty, who will be standing on about the 5-yard line.
And you know, Ben, as soon as you keep changing that lineup, especially on special teams, the return men, you're going to get mistakes. It's very advantageous to keep the same people back there, even if they're not as fast, maybe they're not doing the job, but at least they don't make mistakes.
Of course, the problem, too, is that Jimmy Rogers is now your number 1 running back, and that's what Galbraith is doing, replacing Rogers. So Corral penalized 5 for kicking out of bounds. They tee it up at the 30-yard line. Here is Joe Harris, a great special teams player.
One of the best in the league, was outstanding with the Redskins.
This time, Mauty will get his hands on the ball at the 6. And he's to the 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Out of bounds inside the 45 at the 46-yard line of New Orleans. Great return for Rick Mauty, number 1 in the NFC.
Well, this is the guy they want to handle the returns. They want him to return all that he can. He had good blocking up the right sidelines, made a tackler miss, and now Manning has excellent field position.
So it is 1st and 10 for the Saints on their own 46-yard line. They send Wes Chandler wide right, and they have Ike Harris going the other way. Henry Childs is the tight end. They have Rogers and Wilson, the running backs. They'll try Wayne Wilson inside Fred Sturt's block, and he spins into Ram territory as he is dropped at about the 47-yard line. Wayne Wilson, number 30, along with Jimmy Rogers, who's coming off a 100-yard rushing game last week, and of course the quarterback is Archie Manning. The fellows who will handle the passes, the wide receivers Ike Harris and Wes Chandler. The tight end is Henry Childs. Up front, Taylor, Zanders, Hill, Sturt, and Brock. And that's a first-round draft choice, Stan Brock, starting on the right side. So to 2nd and 3 on the Ram 47. And here comes Jimmy Rogers, and he is stacked up head-on by Johnny Johnson right at the 45-yard line and dropped there. Talking about Johnson, let's take a look at the Ram defensive linemen, the veterans up front, with Youngblood, along with Cody Jones, Larry Brooks, and Fred Dreyer doesn't figure to play much. He's going to play a couple of downs and come out. Then you have Jim Youngblood along with Jack Reynolds and Bob Brzezinski at the linebacking spots. At the corners, you have Pat Thomas and Rod Perry, and the safeties Johnson and Cromwell. There's Fred Dreyer with a bad ankle, played a couple of plays and then came out. Reggie Doss figures to see a lot of playing time today. 3rd and 1 from the Ram 45. Manning play action fake. Good block by Rogers, and the pass upended is Henry Childs. Jimmy Rogers put a great block on Reggie Dawes, which brought up a question, George, because they had been telling us that maybe Jimmy Rogers couldn't block.
Yes. He showed his blocking ability and his toughness on that play. Now, this is also a good call. 3rd and 1. He had Childs open. He threw the ball too high.
Russell Ertzleben, who is last among punters in the NFL. He's been averaging only 36 yards a punt, and he arrows one deep that will hit at the 10-yard line and is deflected back to about the 2, and let's see if it's going to be down at about the 1-yard line.
Very good play by the special teams, Saints special teams. Maybe we can see the ball knocked back by number 84, Maudie. Tipped it back, right? No, 41.
When you've got to rely on your vehicles, rely on AC Delco. AC fire ring spark plugs, AC filters, Delco shocks, and a battery even tougher than the Freedom. The maintenance-free Delco Freedom 2 battery with more efficient starting power. For over 50 years, hard-working people have relied on AC Delco parts for just about anything that moves.
AC Delco, working hard for you.
And right now, AC Delco is making it possible for you to get the Delco Freedom 2 battery on sale at participating outlets.
It's knowing you depend on us. We're gonna solve your problems, yeah, we understand. It's knowing Avis tries so hard, we'll always be right there to lend a helping hand.
Yeah, Avis takes the worry out of renting cars, no matter where the road may wind. At Avis you're leaving your worries behind.
Live, undefeated champion Hilmer Kenny blasts away with Villamar Fernandez for the WBA Lightweight Championship. Next Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on the CBS Sports Spectacular.
There's Wendell Tyler, last year number 1 in the NFL in average per carry, a little better than 5 yards. On the sideline, Elvis Peacock, who was number 7 in the NFC, and we'll have to find out about waiting because Wendell Tyler is back, and we'll see how much work he gets today. Tyler and Bryant as they go slot left from the 1-yard line. So Ferragamo pitching back to Cullen Bryant, and Bryant just got out of the end zone, almost surrendered a safety, just did make it. The first man to hit him was safety man Ray Brown.
We have a score here, Ben. St. Louis leading Dallas 17-10 in the 3rd quarter.
Ray Brown figures to see a lot of action for New Orleans. When he was at West Texas State, he was pretty famous as a running back with Dwayne Thomas and Mercury Morris. But right now, he's at the other end doing the tackling. 2nd and 10 from the 1. Ferragamo looked at Waddy, then releases short to Tyler and off Wendell's hand. While we have a moment, let's check Los Angeles offensively. You have Vince Ferragamo with Wendell, Tyler, and Cullen Bryant. The tight end is Victor Hicks, and his wide receivers Billy Waddy and Preston Denard. Up front, Doug France and Kent Hill, Rick Saul, Dennis Harrah, and then Jackie Slater. Defensively for New Orleans, Grooms, Bennett, Moore, and Hart. Up front in the flex, then you have Bordelon, Fetterspiel, and Mathis, the linebackers, Chapman and Waymer at the corners, Brown and Myers the safety. So it'll be 3rd and 10 from the 1. Ferragamo with several receivers flooding the right side, but he leads Billy Waddy too much. So ironically, even though the Rams are leading and they've had the ball, they haven't moved the ball at all.
No, they haven't, and he's had time to throw. Pretty good protection. Both of his passes have been high, overthrown. Of course, they had good coverage. Atlanta put some pressure on the Rams. They came from behind and beat Buffalo 30-14.
Standing right at the 45-yard line is Rick Maudie, and looking up into the sun, not an angel up there. It's a bright blue sky. Maudie, number 1 in kickoff returns. He is also 3rd in punt returns. He's averaging a little better than 10 yards a return. So Frank Corral in the shadow of the goal nubs it out of there. It's going to hit at the 30-yard line and scurry out of bounds at the 34-yard line. What about that kick, George?
Well, Frank kicked that like he would boot a quick kick, end over end. He looked like he rushed himself. He had plenty of time. Big break for the Saints.
Motorcraft for sure. Motorcraft for sure.
How do you make the great lineup of Motorcraft parts even better? You've already got batteries with Sure Power, hot firing spark plugs, and a full line of filters. So how do you make it better? Just add oil. Introducing Motorcraft Oil, formulated to stabilize oxidation and reduce wear. Rated SF, it meets the most advanced engineering standards set for the 80s. You can be sure of it.
Motorcraft for sure.
Outside, the Canon NP200 may look like any small copier, but inside there's a world of difference, a world of micronics,
where 20 copies a minute are not only possible, but made reliable with a microcomputer. Fiber optics precisely defines your image, and a toner projection system gives you clear copies on virtually any paper.
Up to 11 by 17. Compact in size and price, the Canon NP200 is definitely worth looking into.
Dracula's coming to New York, and his style is irresistible. George Hamilton and Susan St. James star in Love at First Bite, Wednesday night. Good evening.
For the second time in this quarter, New Orleans in good field position. The first time they got the ball after the Rams had scored on the field goal, they put it in play on their own 46. Now, following the punt by Corral, they have it 1st and 10 on the Ram 34. It's 3-0 in favor of Los Angeles, but the Saints now in a golden position. They have Chandler go wide left, Harris goes wide right, and Childs the tight end on the right side. Rodgers and Wilson are the running back, and they're going to go to Wilson into a crowd, and he fights to the 30-yard line, so he picked up 4 yards. There, of course, is the score that would weigh heavily on the Rams if they got into trouble here.
Atlanta looks like they're for real because they beat Buffalo in Buffalo and came from behind.
Meanwhile, in what was almost a shocker, and even the closeness of the score makes it a shocker, Pittsburgh held on to edge Green Bay 22-20. 2nd and 7 from the 30-yard line for the Saints, trailing 3-0 in the early going. Landing on a draw to Jimmy Rodgers, and the Rams read it. Reggie Doss has him, and down he goes. So they're still not looking for the touchdown. They're handing off.
I thought after that great field position, he might go for it on 1st down, play action, and try to get the big play. You know, last week, they picked up 220 yards rushing, so they have a little more confidence probably in their running game, and that takes the pressure off of Archie Manning. But you aren't going to beat the Rams running the football.
San Francisco losing to Sims and company 17-13. Manning has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, which is certainly a black mark on his report. 8 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Archie side-arming it in and out of the hands of the intended receiver Chandler and dropped at the last minute by Rod Perry.
Wow.
Was that a funny delivery by Manning that time?
He threw it sidearm. He threw it behind his receiver. The receiver was covered very well by Perry. He threw it to get away from the rush. Perry almost intercepted that. Watch him. Going down, he almost picked it off.
So Benny Ricardo, a free agent from Detroit who at one time ran a women's boutique in San Diego. He went to school at San Diego State. So Ricardo with a hole by Myers, and the spot will be at the 37-yard line. So a 47-yard field goal attempt is up, and it is way wide. So Ricardo, who was 7 out of 8, misses, and actually he had 7 straight in his first 4 games. He missed last against Atlanta, and he's been struggling ever since. So a bad team not getting any better. It's 3-0 Los Angeles.
Super automotive values from Sears. Get power to start. Get power to spare. Get the Sears 48. Now only $44.99 with trade-in, our lowest price of the year. You save $10. The Road Handler tires are on sale. Save 20% on Sears Best Radio for larger small cars, like the Road Handler for compact cars, as low as $34.36 each. At Sears, where America shops for value.
Company's coming, so save at Sears pre-holiday home improvement sale. Get this Craftsman gas chainsaw that's lightweight yet powerful. Now $189.98 including case. Save $45. This Sears Best Craftsman 10-inch table saw, miters, bevels, rips, and crosscuts. And has a motor that develops 2 horsepower. Now $299.99 with leg set and extensions. Save $120. On sale now at Sears, where America shops for value.
See the cheerleaders go from the sidelines to the front lines in the battle of the NFL cheerleaders. Next Saturday, 4:30 Eastern on the CBS Sports Spectacular.
We mentioned a bad team not getting any better. Here's a case in point. Where was Tom Myers?
Myers was late getting on the field. The clock almost ran down, and Ricardo hurries himself. It isn't all his fault.
The bad teams continue to find ways of losing, and the Rams have it 1st and 10 on their own 30-yard line. Out of the eye, Tyler, the deep man with Bryant in motion. And they'll try Wendell. And Meyer can't hold on to him. Moore can't get him. And finally, Eloise Grooms brings him down. But Tom Myers had him behind the line of scrimmage. Just to update you on some scores, Tampa Bay got well, knocked off the Giants 30-13. San Diego defeating Cincinnati 31-14, even though they left Chuck Muncie home because he missed a practice this week. Baltimore defeated Kansas City 31-24. Meanwhile, over on the Ram bench, Jim Youngblood has been banged up, and he is resting. The Rams have it 2nd and 9 on their 31-yard line. So Tyler picked up 1 on that last carry. Cullen Bryant kind of backing into a heap that time. He just turned his back on it.
You know, looking at the film of last week's game with the Redskins, the Saints defense played pretty well. They held the Redskins to 5 field goals. Mark Mosley kicked 5 field goals, and they only got 1 touchdown. Now, to date, so far in this game, Ben, they've played well. To hold the Rams to a field goal after that opening fumble is good defense.
And, of course, the problem is it's a hot day, and the longer the New Orleans defense stays out there on the field, eventually you get to the breaking point. 3rd and 8 on the Ram 32. Ferragamo with both backs releasing and misleading Wendell Tyler led him too much. So again they stiffen.
Wendell didn't run the best route. Wendell kind of stopped. Ferragamo expected him to keep coming. He overthrew him. I'm sure Wendell, coming back after the layoff, was wary of those linebackers.
So Wendell Tyler getting his feet wet today in a starting role over Elvis Peacock. Ferragamo is 1 for 5 for a total of 4 yards. Frank Corral, who last kicked out of the end zone, out of bounds at the 34, once again kicking to Rich Maude. though Marty standing on the 21-yard line of the Saints. Corral has had one punt blocked this year, and this would be his 37th punt of the year, and he got this one away. Almost a line drive, and Marty will take it at the 28. Running into a pack of Rams shy of the 35. They drop him at the 34.
Ben, that was a very high snap, and we've got an interesting sequence to watch. Dennis Hare, number 60, is playing his first full game at guard, and he's doing all the snapping today. Hot weather, covering kicks, could take its toll.
So the Saints will put it in play. First and 10, just shy of the 35-yard line. Ike Harris goes wide left. Wes Chandler goes wide right. Henry Childs on the left side, and it's Wilson and Rogers out of the eye. Play action fake to Rogers. They keep Brooks out, and another bad pass. I don't know whether Manning, of course, he has had 2 shoulder operations a couple of years ago, and I have no idea whether he has a sore arm or whether he's just become somewhat of a sidearm passer.
Well, he's always thrown a little bit 3/4, Ben. What he does on this, he steps up to get away from the rush and throws the pass moving forward. He wasn't really set. Now watch him step up. He'll step up right here, and he's throwing the ball moving forward a little bit and throws it nose down. No chance.
So it'll be 2nd and 10 from the 35. Harris left, Chandler right. Same formation. Now they have Rogers and Wilson split. And they'll try Rogers inside Hill, and buried at the last minute. Johnny Johnson came up to drill him shy of the line of scrimmage.
Well, Rogers had a big game last week, and as I said earlier, you're not going to run much against this Ram defense.
Couple of more scores. St. Louis leading Dallas 17-13. Dallas number 1 in the NFC in points scored, so they're yet to be heard from. Seattle leading a bruised Philadelphia team 3-0 in the first. 3rd and 11 for Archie Manning. Rogers the sole back. Tinker Owens is in there now, and a flanker on the left side. And Manning misleading Henry Childs, so he's not throwing the ball right yet.
No, he had Childs open. A good pass. Childs was one-on-one. A good pass would have been completed. Archie's feeling the pressure of the Ram defense. They've had field position. They haven't taken advantage of it.
Here's Russell Erxleben out of Texas. He had a bad thigh last year, put on the injured reserve list, and deep is Mike Gooman, number 44, and Gooman is going to have to play this cautiously as it takes a Saints bounce and goes down inside the Ram 20, and that's where it'll stop, right at the Ram 20-yard line.
There's an example of a bad punt that you can't field. With the roll, it turns out to be a good punt.
We can duck in a few more scores since our game is just starting and a lot of them winding up and also beginning. For instance, New England 14-0 over the Jets in the first. Jets really banged up. Denver leading Houston 3-0 in the first. And Oakland behind Jim Plunkett leading Miami 6-0. Elvis Peacock has now come back into the backfield with Cullen Bryant. So Wendell Tyler was used early, and they'll sit him down again. Preston Denard goes left, and Billy Waddy goes right. Play action fake to Peacock, and Ferragamo setting up to go deep over the middle, in and out of the hands of Billy Waddy.
Had him open, then threw it high.
So to give you an idea, we have seen 10 passes in this game and only 1 catch.
Good call, play action, plenty of time, the ball's high, and a little bit behind Waddy. That's the type of pass that's intercepted. The ball that's tipped when it's high, deflected, the defender has a chance to intercept it.
But Wendell Tyler, sitting on the sidelines, averaged better than 5 yards a carry last year, then was in that terrible automobile accident. There were some folks who questioned even his career. Happy to see that he's back and able to play even for a little bit. On a draw to Elvis Peacock. He goes inside Bryant's block. Fumble! And the Saints have let it get away. Federspiel had it, and the Rams would appear to have fallen on the ball.
The Saints had it?
Yep, Joe Federspiel had it, but he couldn't hold on to it.
And lost it. One of the...
Denard. Preston Denard is now, watch this bounce, and you'll see Federspiel appear to pick it up. Here's 58 Federspiel rolling and it got away from him. And now Bordelon couldn't pick it up. It got away from two more Saints, and finally double H's Preston Denard made the recovery and then melee, and they wind up spotting the ball on the Ram 42, so they pick up 22 yards on that play. Cullen Bryant hit on the side by Grooms, and down he goes. Friends, this telecast presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Los Angeles Rams and the National Football League is prohibited. So the Rams have moved it out to midfield. It'll be 2nd and 8 for Ferragamo. And he's going to try and bite off a bunch in a hurry. Going to the right side, the reception by Preston Denard, and he steps out of bounds at the 33-yard line. And they were picking on the rookie out of Notre Dame, David Waymer.
And there's a dog on this play, and there's a flag on this play.
And the preliminary signal, it would appear it's against the Rams. We'll listen to Jim Tunney, the referee. We can also say, along with Jim, you have Pat Harder, the umpire, Bert Toller, the head linesman.
Holding, 72, 10 yards, still 2nd down.
So a 10-yard penalty for holding against Kent Hill on the left side of center Rich Saul. The other officials, Dick McKenzie, Pat Knight, Gil Mace, and Don Hakes. So 2nd and 18 for the Rams on the Ram 40-yard line.
327!
Denard is left, and Drew Hill is wide right. Ferragamo deciding to run laterally and then throwing it to the tight end Victor Hicks, who takes a bump and is knocked out of bounds at the 37-yard line. Tom Myers, the safety man, came over to knock Victor Hicks out of bounds.
Well, you know, Ferragamo's not known as a scrambler, but he has enough agility to get away from the rush, find the open man, throws a good pass, gets the 1st down. Good play by Ferragamo.
So undaunted by the penalty, they had a 1st and 10 on the 42. Then they were pushed backwards to the 38, and they have come right back again now to put it in play. 1st and 10 is Ferragamo. You can see his numbers. Waddy is right, and Denard goes left. Play action fake to Peacock, and Ferragamo going deep to Waddy. Billy Waddy hit the goal post, a glancing blow. He took it away from Clarence Chapman, and Waddy might have hurt his right knee. For Billy Waddy, his 2nd touchdown of the year, but he might have had to pay a very expensive price for it.
Well, here it is, play action, 1st and 10. That's when you want to run play action on a running down. Pretty good protection. Throws the bomb, lets him run underneath it. Good catch and stayed in bounds, and he just got a glancing blow. He used his left arm to push off of the goalpost. Push off of the goalpost, and of course the padding there is going to protect him. Watch him push off. Just a glancing blow. Maybe hit his knee.
Well, it is definitely a knee that was twisted. And the crowd reacting now. Dr. Clarence Shields alongside Billy Waddy, who comes off under his own powers. So Billy Waddy from Colorado, who suffered broken teeth in the St. Louis game just a couple of weeks ago, almost has a collision with the goalpost, but he's okay. So it is 9-0 Rams. Corral has kicked 26 out of 27, improved that by 1. So we have 5 minutes and 35 seconds left to go in the first quarter here at Anaheim. Billy Waddy is okay on the Ram bench, and so are the Rams. The Rams leading 10-0. And of course the Rams spurred on by the fact that the Atlanta Falcons, trailing 14-0, came back to defeat Buffalo in Buffalo.
In Buffalo. Falcons are for real. Ferragamo is opening up like he should. He's got the protection. He's got the fine offensive line. He knows he can throw deep. this is what he's doing now. Archie Manning has been very conservative. He's had field position.
Oh, has he ever?
He's run the football, and they haven't done a thing.
The last time the Saints had the ball, they had it on the Ram 34, and they couldn't go anywhere.
Couldn't pick up a first down.
So Frank Corral will kick from the 35. Meanwhile, we're keeping tabs on the Dallas Cowboys. We told you they lead the NFC in scoring. They were trailing the last time we heard, and look at that. Dallas now out in front 20-17.
Yeah, 78-yard interception by Dennis Thurman to put Dallas ahead.
Rich Maury from the 2-yard line to the 15, and he is hit and dropped at the 20-yard line. Lucius Smith, number 23, hit him at the 20-yard line and dropped him. Vince Ferragamo and Bob Lee having a little chat on the sidelines. And on the field, an injured player, Leroy Irvin, number 47. And we also, Rich Maury, who had handled it. Maury hurt his hand or wrist. That's a bad day for both sides. Let's take another look at that. Here's Maury. There's Lucius Smith hitting him. He is also hit hard by George Andrews. And then perhaps somebody stepped on him in that pile.
It's hard to tell. You can't tell what happened.
Take another look behind the wedge. Here comes Maury. Look at Andrews. Double team, spun off. Still got his shoulder in there, along with Jeff Delaney, Carl Eckern, and at the bottom, Lucius Smith.
Earlier in the broadcast, Ben, you said Maury was leading the league, one of the leaders in the league. Well, when you're 0-8, you get a lot of opportunities to return kicks. It's like leading the league in double plays.
Of course, he's leading not so much in opportunity,
average
but
as
in
well.
yardage.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he's a good man, but you get plenty of opportunities to break one, and usually you get a long one in there, and that brings your average up.
Billy Waddy, well, and listening to Ferragamo. Lucius Smith, who made the tackle, was shaken up, as was Leroy Irvin and Rich Maury. There is Irvin. He's the rookie from Kansas. He was a third-round draft choice for the Ram this year. Good-looking young prospect.
Let's see what Archie does on first down.
So 1st and 10 on the Saints' 21-yard line. Rodgers and Wilson behind Manning. You have Harris wide right, Chandler wide left. And he finally has Henry Childs at the 40-yard line. So the tight end makes the reception, and they pick up 19 yards and a first down.
Well, that was well executed. He fakes the draw to the fullback. Watch him go up, set up, faking the draw to the fullback, takes the pressure off. He likes Henry Childs over the middle. He's open, good pass. Childs spins away, picks up some additional yardage.
So on a 19-yard pickup, it's 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line of New Orleans. The Rams leading 10-0. Wilson and Rodgers, and they'll try Rodgers with Wilson trying to block, and he fumbles, and it's recovered by Johnny Johnson of the Rams, and Johnson still at the 30, dragged down from behind by J.T. Taylor.
Well, Ben, if we wonder why the Saints are 0-8, they're self-destructive. Here they have good blocking, good play, picked up some yards. Look how he's carrying the football. Actually, he lost it even before he was hit. I think he may have jarred it loose with his leg.
Take another look. Holding it with the right hand. Now, as he's hit from the side, he already had dropped it.
So that's called beating yourself, and that's really demoralizing to your defense.
So it is 1st and 10 on the New Orleans 27-yard line. Another gift to Los Angeles. Ryan Peacock out of the eye, and it's Elvis Peacock stepping over people across the 20 and fighting Ray Brown to a standstill at about the 17-yard line.
Well, it's nice to play quarterback in this situation. You're ahead 10-0. You can run or pass. All you got to do is execute, and you're going to be in field goal range or score a touchdown.
You know, the Saints are within one game of their team record of 9 consecutive losses, having lost all 8 this year, and it looks like they're equal to the opportunity. 2nd and 1 on the 18. Elvis Peacock. And he's inside the 10. Tom Myers had him at the 15-yard line, but he got away from Myers.
You know, Ben, in most of these games recently, the Saints have played well the first half. Last week, this is what we call a Baltimore late form of a draw. Good call in here. Last week, they were only behind 9-7. The week before, they were ahead of Atlanta 14-13. They've never been blown out in the games we saw in the first quarter.
Well, it's 1st and goal on the Saints' 9-yard line. Peacock and Bryant behind Ferragamo. Here comes Cullen Bryant. And he's to about the 5. It will not be any consolation to the Saints to know the Rams, second to Dallas in points scored, have done the bulk of their work in the second quarter. And here they are with a chance to lead by 17 in the first quarter.
And most of it, not all, but most of it because of Saint mistakes.
In case you joined us a little late, Tony Galbraith dropped the opening kickoff. It was recovered by the Rams on the Saints 18, and eventually Corral had a field goal. The Saints unable to move the ball at all. The Rams hit on a touchdown to Billy Waddy. And now Jimmy Rogers fumble, and the Rams are in business again. 2nd and goal from the 4. And upended is Cullen Bryant. Washington submarined him. A flag on the play.
I think too much time. The Rams substituted. They brought in Pankey. 2 tight ends. That's what it is. That's the trouble with sending in plays. If they don't get in there in a hurry and the quarterback takes a little time, you're fighting that clock.
A legal procedure, and it was Herb Pankey, number 75. They bring in Waddy and Denard again, so Waddy evidently fine with his brush. There is Denard, number 88, and on the other side of the huddle is Billy Waddy. Ray Malavasi had a 5-game winning streak snapped last week against Atlanta. Ray would like to start building a new one today.
27!
With Bryant and Peacock in front of him, the pass to Billy Waddy all alone.
And you know what, Ben? If we see that again, he could run the ball as well. He didn't even have to throw. Good call by Ferragamo. Now watch. Nobody forcing the play at all. He did the wise thing, threw the ball wide open. There it is. Here it is again from a better angle. No Saint forcing the play at all. Look, now he's coming up late. 56, Mathis. Easy score.
So Billy Waddy, who had 1 touchdown catch this year, has caught 2 in the last couple of minutes. Corral picks it through. Well, we've just started. With 2 minutes and 56 seconds left to go in the first quarter, the Rams are leading the hapless New Orleans Saints 17-0.
Well, it's really a morale thing now. They have to regroup or they're going to get blown out completely. On a rollout, somebody has to force the quarterback right away. You can't let him get around because now you have to defense the run and the pass.
And of course, for the Saints, getting clobbered here in the early going, they play Philadelphia next week, then Atlanta, and then the Rams again.
Well, you know, Dick Nolan and his staff are doing everything they can. When you make all these mistakes, there's not much a coach can do about that.
You know, one of their better players, Rick Mauti, suffered an elbow injury, and so Jimmy Rogers will have to go back and be the deep man. Mauti on the sidelines. There is Dick Nolan, trying to keep his youngsters in the ball game, but they're in danger of being blown out. Boy, it must be tough. There's Dennis Harrah, big guy with the Rams, who's been very busy.
He has a big job today, doing all the snapping and playing full time.
Frank Corral kicking to Jimmy Rogers from about a yard in the end zone. He got by Leroy Smith, but he is buried at the 15-yard line. So Joe Harris, your special teams man, hustling down there on that kickoff, George.
Joe loves to play the special teams. He's always hustling. He's very physical. He gets rid of the blocker. Comes in. Watch him lower the boom. Makes the tackle. He's a principal tackler on the play.
So it is 1st and 10 for the Saints on their own 15-yard line. Chandler goes right, Harris goes left, and we'll see what Manning does. In motion is Ike Harris. And stacked up behind the line of scrimmage, Larry Brooks drops Wayne Wilson at about the 12-yard line. The big Larry, 6'3", 253 in there to make the stop.
Well, Larry Brooks sheds the blocker, penetrates, meets him head on. It's a wonder he didn't fumble. Again, the Saints have had difficulty all year running that football. Last week they broke the 200-yard mark. Nobody runs well against the Rams defense.
So Manning now on a 2nd and 12 from the 13. On a draw to Wayne Wilson. Wilson gets out across the 20-yard line to about the 23. Jimmy Johnson, 1 of 2 to hit him. Also Pat Thomas.
You know, Vin, if you have to get behind, it's nice to be behind when you're early because you got some time to pick it up.
So Wayne Wilson comes out.
Well, if you get behind, it's in the 4th quarter, you run out of time. The Saints got a lot of time. 17 points isn't a lot of points under the present rules of pro football.
So it's a 3rd and 3 for Archie Manning. The ball on the Saints 22-yard line. Tinker Owens is in motion, picked up by Nolan Cromwell. And almost intercepted by Rod Perry. It was intended for Ike Harris. So Manning, who does not seem to be under that much of a rush, but is just not passing crisply.
He's pressing a little bit, and there's a lot of pressure on him. You can't run the football, you have to throw it. You have to throw it against one of the best defenses in all of football.
Well, Mike Gooman, number 44, will go deep for the Rams. And Ertzlaven getting his kick away. Gooman signaling fair catch at the 41-yard line. And that's where the Rams will put it in play. Let's check some more scores now before the Rams try to move the football once more. And look at that. Seesaw as the Cardinals have taken a 24-20 lead.
Hart threw a 34-yard touchdown pass to Mel Gray for that lead.
And we can see Minnesota blanking Washington 17-0. And we're not double sure of the 17.
Yeah, the score I think is 14-0. Steve Dills is playing quarterback today.
Seattle is leading Philadelphia on 2 field goals, 6-0. So the Rams 1st and 10 on the Ram 42-yard line, and they're leading 17-0. Cullen Bryant ran into Derlin Moore right at the 40-yard line, and Moore dropped him, and we have a couple of more scores. New England having a field day at the expense of the New York Jets, 17-0. Denver leading Houston 6-0 in the second quarter.
That's a surprise.
And Oakland leading Miami 9-3. The resurgence of the Raiders and Jim Plunkett. That's some story.
That's the difference. Jim Plunkett.
2nd and 11 from the 41. In motion is Cullen Bryant. And a little release to Elvis Peacock. So Elvis Peacock goes all the way.
Well, you got to give Ferragamo a lot of credit on this play. He was dogged. Watch the dog. He was blitzed. Somebody's right in his face, and he dumps it off to his outlet man, Peacock. Good running, good blocking. You got to play those swing backs tight. The way the quarterbacks are dumping them off, dumping passes off to the backs, you got to play them real tight. The Saints played them too loose.
So Elvis Peacock on a 59-yard burst. Peacock handling that little release from Ferragamo. That's the 7th touchdown that Peacock has picked up this year.
He gets credit for a touchdown pass, a 5-yard pass.
And a 54-yard run. So here is Corral trying to make it 24-0, and that's what it is. Well, take another look at the play. One man had one shot. It's Federspiel coming up, number 58. Watch this now.
Took the wrong angle, man.
And he couldn't get him, and the play was all over.
You got to take an outside-in angle. He came from the inside with a dog. He had Peacock in the flat. You got to latch right onto him, plaster yourself to him real tight, not make an open field tackle.
So the first quarter has completely disintegrated. Let's be honest about that. It is 24-0 in favor of the Rams. Further bad news for the Saints. Rich Mauti has a fracture just above the elbow and naturally will not return.
And you know, then the interesting thing is that the Saints have not had many injuries this year. You know, some teams like Pittsburgh playing poorly because they got 4 or 5 All-Pros out. But the Saints have been relatively free of injuries.
Well, Jimmy Rogers, who took over as a running back, is now back to handle kicks, and that looks like the busiest job for the Saints today. Rogers from the 1 to the 15, hurtling across the 20 and almost landed at the feet of Joe Harris at about the 23-yard line. Take another look at that hurdle. Jimmy used to block at Oklahoma. Watch him go up.
I tell you
and
what,
over.
I like the way Vinny's carrying that ball. He's got that ball protected. He shouldn't fumble it when you carry it that way.
So the Saints will put it in play, 1st and 10 on their own 24-yard line. And Archie Manning finds himself buried under a 24-0 score in the first quarter. Play action fake to Rogers. Manning gives it to Wilson, and Brzezinski and Perry push him out of bounds. He got up to about the 33-yard line.
You know what the Rams defense can do now, Ben? For the rest of the ball game, they're ahead 24-0 in the first quarter. For the rest of the ball game, they can play pass rush and pass defense. And you know, it's tough to get sacks under the new rules. You know, the offensive linemen using their hands, it's very difficult to get sacks. But those 4 guys, those 4 rushmen, can tee off and jet charge and go after Manning.
Go to 2nd and 1 from the 33. And the Saints go slot left. Harris is inside Chandler. Wayne Wilson is across the 35 out to the 40-yard line. Nolan Cromwell brought him down, but he picked up the first down as the Saints try to make some kind of a showing here, and the first quarter is history. At the end of the first quarter, compounded by New Orleans' mistakes, the Rams are leading 24-0.
Lincoln Mercury introduces the totally new Lynx. Its hemispherical head engine, advanced transmission, and aerodynamic shape combine to produce exceptional fuel efficiency. Starting today, the world belongs to an American car. Starting today, the world belongs to Lynx.
I make one trick shot in a light beer commercial, and everybody thinks they know how to shoot pool. So these guys decided to take me on to shoot a little pool and drink a little light beer from Miller. Because it's less filling.
Tastes great!
Less filling.
Let's quit talking and start chalking.
You break, Bubba. Sure, I haven't broken anything all day.
Hey, Mickey, what happened? It's a mystery to me. You show him, Rodney.
Yeah, show him.
You guys got me all wrong. I think light tastes great, too. But when you're shooting pool, the only thing you want to get filled up is the bottle. 14 6-ball combination.
Steve, how do you do that?
Practice, practice, practice.
Like beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
The NFL on CBS. Today's game is sponsored by Ford Trucks. The trucks built Ford tough and built for fuel economy. And by Light Beer. Everything you always wanted in a beer and less.
It's the start of the second quarter. And, of course, the Trojans, the University of Southern California, and the marvelous Trojan band are here with us today. The Trojans coming off a big victory yesterday where they piled up over 60 points. There they are. The Trojan band serenading before and at halftime. So the Saints trying to get a move on. And Archie Manning has his receiver, and it is the big tight end Williams at midfield. Jack Reynolds brings him down.
And Williams did something smart. He came back. Reynolds was right with him. He came back for the ball so he could receive it. You know, I can't remember a game, Ben, where, and I'm sure it's happened, though, where one team had 24 points in the first quarter. Can you?
No, and I tell you, it's the thoroughly forgettable first quarter. 2nd and 1. The ball is just shy of midfield. Rodgers and Wilson behind Manning. Jimmy Rodgers burrows for the first down. So the Saints will have it 1st and 10 on the Ram 49-yard line.
You know, Ben, having had Billy Kilmer and Bob Brunet from down in Louisiana, the fans down there are so great. They're just so loyal to this team and have supported this team over the years that they really deserve a championship team, a playoff team.
And, you know, looking at them last year, it looked like they were going in the right direction.
Yes, we did 2 games, and they played very well.
1st and 10 on the Ram 49-yard line. Chandler right and Harris left. Rodgers, the deep man out of the eye. And Archie, under some heat, sets up a screen to Rodgers, and he is boxed in by Nolan Cromwell and dropped at the 45-yard line. Good play by Nolan Cromwell.
Yes, exactly. A fine open field tackle by Nolan Cromwell off of play action. Nolan tackled him high, went right around the waist. Good rush by Jack Youngblood. Now watch Cromwell make this tackle on Rodgers, who has locked his arms right around the waist. You don't miss there. Rodgers has 4.5 speed.
Nolan is tied with John Turner in Minnesota for the most interceptions in the NFC. 5. He can beat you both ways. Play action fake to Rodgers. And Manning all alone is Ike Harris at the 20, and Cromwell drops him at about the 16-yard line. Ike Harris wide open.
Well, that's what Manning has to do. He has to throw the football. Looks like there's a flag down.
And the preliminary signal would indicate it is against New Orleans, possibly a holding penalty to wipe out that completion.
Well, that's a tough break. They need a big play in here.
Number 67, 2nd down.
That's Brock, their first-round pick.
Number 67 for New Orleans is a rookie out of Colorado by the name of Stan Brock. He was a first-round draft choice this year. What makes it interesting as you see him holding, there he is at the top of your picture. His brother Pete was a #1 draft choice out of Colorado 4 years ago, and he's the center for the New England Patriots. So 2 brothers, 2 first-round picks. 2nd and 16 on the 45, and they go to Rodgers around the left side, and he takes a horrendous hit. Jim Youngblood, number 53, shook him all the way back to Louisiana.
And going back to Brock, he's trying to block Jack Youngblood, an all-pro. He has a real assignment. There's no better defensive end in football than Jack Youngblood. A good hit there by Jim Youngblood. Jim Youngblood was questionable today. Did you know that, Ben?
Yes, I had read that he had a bad leg. We saw him sitting on the sideline. Fred Dreyer is on the sidelines. He played a couple of plays. He has a bad ankle. And Pat Hayden, naturally, on the sidelines and quite unhappy about it. 3rd and 7 on the 46 of the Rams. In motion is Ike Harris. Tinker Owens and Wes Chandler all on the left side. And intended for Chandler, with Owens the front man. Pat Thomas slowly getting up.
Well, the timing on the play didn't develop. But Manning's doing what he has to do. This is a type of ball game where you have to throw 50 passes. You have to take advantage of the rules. You're behind 24 points. You aren't going to catch up handing off.
Talking around a first-round draft choice, Russell Erxleben is only the 4th kicker ever to go on the first round. And a fair catch by Gooman, and the ball will go out of bounds inside the 10-yard line. Erxleben was picked along with Ray Guy, Charles Gogol,